Good morning and welcome to the EZFX trading room for Wednesday, October 19th, 2016. My name is Bradley Freed, and for the next 20 to 30 minutes, you'll be joining me for a review of our watch list that we last updated on Monday. We're going to go through each currency pair trade setup and open trade and update the conditions and status according to how these trades have evolved over time, and hopefully introduce some new trade ideas to you during the next several minutes. If you're watching live and you have questions, you can post your questions to the chat room on this page, and I will answer them all at the end of the broadcast. If you're watching the recording and you have questions, you can go to the community features of this website from the community menu. You can post to the trading room group. You can send me a private message from the members page, or you can also just send me an email at ezfxsignal@gmail.com. I always look forward to hearing from you and answering your questions. Let's go ahead and jump over to our watch list and review where we were at on Monday. On our watch list, we had a euro dollar buy, dollar yen buy, pound yen buy, dollar peso buy, pound dollar buy, euro pound sell, and pound Aussie buy. On our new or open trades list, the dollar sing dollar sell was open. The New Zealand dollar was open. New Zealand buy was open. Also, the dollar Swiss sell, dollar CAD buy, Aussie New Zealand buy, dollar kroner buy, pound Swiss sell, and euro yen sell. So let's go ahead and jump over to our watch list. I actually have several updates for you. So let's look at our charts. Jump over to our charts, and I'll have a lot of watch list updates for you today. Okay, so first off, I want to change what we're looking at a little bit. I had to think about the currency pairs we're watching and what looks good. And I started to look at these pairs that had trended fairly significantly. And then they're starting to break down. So like the New Zealand yen here, this was moving in a range. It moved high. It gave us some Class A divergence. And then it's starting to show some breakdown vis-a-vis this trend line. I think this looks pretty promising as a new trade. If you're going to trade this right now, you could put your stop above this supply zone or above the recent high made by this pair. We only really have 2 points of confirmation. We have the Class A zone, we have the trend line break here and close below. We do not have a sell bubble. We do not have a color change of the triangular moving average. I would suggest waiting for one of those to appear before you get into this. We've had enough of these pairs whipping around and stopping us out that waiting for some additional confirmation would be beneficial. And then we can think about getting into a trade. So the first thing I want to add to our watch list is this New Zealand yen sell. Next, I want to look at the Aussie yen. This is also, I don't believe this was on our watch list earlier. Similar kind of setup, Class A zone, no bubble, no triangle moving average color change, but we have had a break of this trend line that I drew connecting these 2 points. Again, I would wait until we have a color change in the triangle moving average and then assess the risk reward versus the opportunity. If it's still there when that happens, then you can think about taking a sell trade on this pair. The stop loss would be right above the zone here. So I'll also add this Aussie yen sell. Dollar CAD, this is another one I do like. We got stopped out of this once, and then it broke out yesterday, and I kind of taking my time thinking about getting into it. I don't want to just jump into this pair. It's been rather brutal to us in the last few days. So I would actually draw a trend line here across these most recent wicks and wait for a triangular moving average, in addition to this Class A zone here, and then the break of this trend line before I would buy this pair. But this is also on my list of something that I'm interested in buying. And this would be a retrade for the trade that stopped out earlier in the week. Euro Newsy, this is perhaps one of my favorites at the moment. This has fallen very straight, very far, very fast. We have a nice trend line. We were able to draw above price. And this trend line defines this trend fairly accurately. We have a new Class A zone that's formed down here, a new Class A signal. We have a buy bubble that is formed right here. And then all we'd really need is a trend line break and a color change of the triangular moving average, and that would be a very strong signal to go ahead and get in this trade. If we look at this on a higher time frame, we can see that there actually is another supply zone down here which defines the actual most recent low of this pair. It could be getting ready to fall further and go as far as that. So I do want to be careful about the confirmation before we get into a trade on this pair. But this is perhaps my favorite setup I've seen so far this week for mean reversion trading. So let's put Euro Newsy buy on this also on our list. Aussie Swiss, this is a similar kind of deal. It's trended pretty far, pretty fast. We don't have a buy bubble at this time. We kind of had one setting up yesterday, but it moved a little further up after that. Trend line's been broken sideways. This really isn't a reliable signal. I'm waiting to see some more price print before I draw a new trend line or do any additional redefinition to this setup. But a color change in the triangular moving average, a bubble, and a Class A signal, this is Class B, would convince me that this may be something I want to sell. For now, I'm just going to add it to our watch list. Like so. Euro dollar buy, this is another one I like. I believe I already had this on our list. I've redrawn the trend line. We had several trend lines, and this pair keeps falling. It's still falling, in fact. If it breaks through this low here, I think it'll completely penetrate the zone and go even further. I have drawn a trend line, a very conservative shallow trend line above the most recent candles in price. If we got a Class A, a triangular moving average color change and a candle close above this line, I would consider selling it, buying it, but we're not there yet. So for now, this stays on the watch list. Euro dollar buy, 1 hour chart. Let's look at the dollar yen. So dollar yen has finally fallen a little bit, but it may bounce up again. This pair is extremely unreliable right now. It's so unreliable, in fact, that I don't want to trade it anymore for a while, because I think this is so impacted by the US election and polling and stuff that we just aren't going to get a reliable signal for this from this for quite a while. So I'm going to take this off our watch list, and we'll put it back on once we see some price action that gives us a more defined setup. But for now, I don't think it's worth spending time on. Pound yen, I still like this. I've drawn a new trend line over price here. We're getting some consolidation, a breakout, and a triangular moving average color change might convince me to buy this pair. But for now, this is still on our watch list. So the pound yen buy on the 4 hour, I'm going to leave right where it is. Dollar peso buy. Pair also continues to fall. It's simply not giving us anything to work with at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and take it off of our watch list. We do have Class B divergence, and we have a buy bubble here. The problem is that the peso has been so impacted by the US election. If we go to the daily chart and we look at 2016, well, look at the weekly chart, that's even better. But you can just see the massive weakening this pair has had. That's accelerated really during this election cycle, because of all the prospects of forcing perhaps trade sanctions or revising trade deals with Mexico, and that would impact their economy. So this has really severely weakened as that rhetoric is heated up. I think it's more likely to drop, especially after the election is over. So I kind of want to hold off on buying this pair because I don't know that it's going to weaken that much further. I think it's more likely to fall. So with that in mind, let's kind of set this aside and we'll revisit it later once it gives us something better to work with. Pound dollar buy. Let's look at our pound pairs. Certainly the pound pairs are something that we wanted to happen for us, and they keep falling. And so now we're kind of looking at sell trades, but it hasn't really moved that much this week. Now we're watching this in the 4-hour chart for clarity. I do have Class B divergence. That's pound Aussie, I want pound dollar. Okay, pound dollar has actually broken out, but I don't really trust this breakout. And I'm going to demand that I see a triangular moving average color change pretty clearly before I would risk anything on this pair. We do have a buy bubble. We do have a trend line break. We do not have a Class A demand zone. And we don't have a triangular moving average color change. So I would say I'm still watching this. I'm really more interested in selling it than buying it. But I need to have a defined signal and a defined trade in whichever direction I decide to trade it. So we're going to go ahead and leave that on the watch list, the pound dollar buy. The euro pound sell next. Euro pound broke below this line here. It's looking like it's going to fall, but it's sort of like the pound dollar. I still don't have a triangular moving average color change on the 4-hour chart. I'm still waiting for that. I do have a sell bubble. I do have a Class B supply zone that's formed around this price action. So it could fall, but it doesn't appear to be very enthusiastic about doing that either. So I'm being very wary of this pair. I think it could easily rise up and make a new high. I think the pound has a lot more weakening to do before it's going to stabilize. There's just no fundamentals coming out of the UK government that give me any confidence that they have a handle on this Brexit situation, or that they've made any policy decisions long term that are going to boost rather than erode the economy in the UK. Finally, the pound Aussie. This is a similar kind of deal. We have this pair dropping. I also want to add the pound newsy actually, because it's a similar kind of setup. Both of these are dropping. Neither of these have broken a trend line. They're still making lower lows, and I think these are perhaps a more reliable barometer of what's going on with this pair, and that they're moving more conservatively. They're not giving these false positives that we see on the other pairs. So if these pairs break above and start moving in the buy direction, give us a signal, then I'd be more apt to be willing to both trade these pairs and think about trading the other pairs. So let's add the pound newsy as well to our list. And as always, these are trade ideas. These are things we're watching that may turn into trades. They're not trades yet. These aren't trade recommendations, but they're the things we should be looking at because they look like they're showing signs they're going to evolve into trading opportunities in the near future. All right, so let's jump down to our new and open trade list, and let's take a look at that. First one is a dollar sing dollar. That was not a signal trade, but it was something we were looking at that I introduced to you last week. This has dropped. We've had a Class A supply zone and a triangular moving average color change and a trend line break here. This is a sell trade, and it's kind of been proceeding, dropping a little bit. It's retraced a little bit, but it's so far moving in the sell direction. For profit targets, I would redefine the Fibonacci's and think about using the 50% and the 78.6% levels. They're a little bit more conservative price-wise than the pivots we were looking at. You can also use this weekly pivot here for a more conservative profit target for the second profit target. But I would keep looking at those. I'm still not quite convinced by this setup. I just don't, the dollar stuff has been so volatile that I would even be happy waiting, drawing a new trend line under these wicks before I would try to get into this. And let's see if it doesn't just retrace back up before it falls again. But just be careful with these. So I do not trust them one bit. Okay, New Z dollar buy, that's our next one. This has moved right along. We've moved our stop to break even, taking partial profit. I did send out a signal with this update. Still looking for it to pulse up and hit our second target, which is the weekly pivot over here at 0.7275. But it hasn't changed much since yesterday. So this is still open. Dollar Swiss sell. The dollar Swiss sell unfortunately stopped out. It rose and hit its stop here. So that would have given us a loss of approximately 34 pips. It was a pretty tight stop once I set the trade up. But it is over. I don't really see a retrade on this at this point, so I'm just going to walk away from it, from this idea. Dollar CAD buy is the next one. And that also, as I mentioned earlier, that stopped out. We had a stop up here. It unfortunately dropped and hit that stop. So this is closed. And it's back on our watch list for a retrade. I believe I had this. Yeah, we lost 100 pips on that one. Aussie Newsy buy. This one is still open. It has dropped below this trend line, but the triangular moving average is still blue on the 4-hour chart. I did have a Class A signal here. This is a close signal. You can go ahead and always close a trade when you see that. We just hit the first profit target, and I'd moved the stop break even, so I wanted to see if we could get up a little further. I'm still not convinced that it won't do that, so I'm holding on to it, and we'll just see if we can get a move and a new high and push through some of these supply zones, at least to 1.08935. And then our next Class A signal, I'll probably go ahead and take profit on this if we don't stop out at break even before then. But this trade is still at this time open. Dollar kroner, this has been an interesting ride. It's risen, dropped, risen, dropped. Now it looks like it might be getting ready to rise again. We do have a new demand zone under price, which tends to push it up higher. The triangular moving average is still blue on the 4-hour chart. If we can get back up here and break through this zone finally, we may finally get to our initial profit target at the monthly pivot at 8.3229. So I'm just holding on to this to see if that's going to happen for us this week. Pound Swiss sell. This was consolidating sideways. It moved higher. It almost stopped out. Then it's been sort of moving down. It created this small new supply zone right here. I'm hoping this will fall, of course, and start to get into the money for us. At present, this is still open. I'm just holding this idea open for now, and we'll see what happens. Next, we have a euro-yen sell. And this has hit its final profit target. So this is done. This was a winner. We got into this trade on this trend line break here. Original stop was about 73. Final profit target was 213 or 214. Let's say 213. So this is a winner. Unfortunately, this wasn't a signal trade. This wasn't a trade that I elected to take. That sometimes happens and it's frustrating, but it was a winner, and we did introduce it here, and it was available to you to trade. So that's all my watch list updates for now. I don't have a huge amount of new stuff, but we did add some new things to the watch list and kind of changed our focus a little bit and remove some things as well. So hopefully that'll get us on a tighter track towards getting some profit in the next several days. If you have any questions, you can always send me an email at ezfxsignal.com, and we just make sure we don't have any live questions waiting for us, and we do not at this time. My email address is always ezfxsignal@gmail.com. Always ready and happy to hear from you and answer your questions. You can also go to the community features post to the trading room group, or go to the members list, find me, I'm EZFX, and you can send me a private message. I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of our trading room broadcast. In the meantime, if you have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to email me. I'll have updates available to you by email on our trades, any new trades, any updates to our currently open trades, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care and have a great day of trading. Bye-bye.